All right, there you go. Rocking out as our intro today. Welcome to the Bros Talking Soccer podcast. My name is Dave Knittel, and I'm here with our friend Matt Lefler. Matt, thank you for that awesome intro. How you doing today?
Okay.
All right, how you doing today?
I had a hat mishap and an earphone head mishap and all that stuff. I'm doing great, Dave. How are you doing, man?
I'm doing well as well. This is a podcast where we where we generally chat about what's happening in American and European soccer. And I mean, that holds true here today because we're talking about the US versus France, but we are recapping day 22 of the 2019 World Cup. It is Friday, June 28th, and we're going to talk about the France versus the US women's national team match that just finished with the US prevailing 2-1. Before we get into talking about the match and everything, wanted to give a couple of quick plugs for our partners. We're a part of the Big Heads Media Network. Go to bigheadsmedia.com for tons of awesome podcasts. If you're into podcasts, you have to check out Big Heads Media. They have all different kinds of podcasts about sports, crime, entertainment, video games, crime, I think I already said crime history. So go check it all out at bigheadsmedia.com. We're also a part of the Stadium Scene Network. Go to stadiumscene.tv for all kinds of sports content. They have a ton of soccer content, but they also have all different major sports as well, including like NASCAR, hockey, all the major sports. And they have podcasts, YouTube videos, blog posts, and all of that is available on stadiumscene.tv. Before we get into talking about the matches today, let's ask our question from Jeff. Jeff, thank you so much for sending in these questions every day that we record. And so, Matt, this is about growing up. So growing up and as a kid, what was your favorite TV show, toy, and food treat that bring back favorite memories? So let's start with TV show.
You would think that I would have one. Let's see. Saturday morning cartoons was my favorite time to watch TV. That's a thing that is no longer in existence. They went away. So yeah, I'd get up like at 6 or 7 in the morning every Saturday, go out. My parents were still in bed. I'd watch cartoons. It was the best ever. How about you?
So for me, I wasn't super into cartoons. Both Christian and Matt, my two brothers, were into cartoons. And so they did, when I was a kid, still have Saturday morning cartoons, but I guess they went away. So my favorite TV show is Friends. So we watched that growing up as a family. This was back when people still watch television as a family and you didn't have DVR and all, or you didn't have DVR, you didn't have on demand. And so we would have to like sit in front of the TV all together on Thursday nights. So that is my TV show. What about toy, Matt? Any toys come to mind for you?
It was either Legos or Micronauts. Actually, I didn't really have Legos. I had bricks blocks. My parents bought me this gigantic set of this stuff called bricks blocks. And it was cool because I had like way more options than my friends who had Legos. So
that's a good shout. So I was going to say video games, but I'm going to say Kinects, which were kind of Legos, but they were different because they were a little bit more three-dimensional rather than like Legos were very blocky. Kinects, you had a little bit more freedom to like, I don't know, you had like joints and, you could put those things going all over the place. So that's a good shout. I'm going to say Kinects and switch it up. And then what about food treat, Matt? Anything from your childhood that comes to mind?
So there were two things. So my dad was a trucker, and so he was often gone overnight for like a week at a time. And in the winter, what we would do is my mom would make this amazing hot chocolate where she would actually put milk in a pan, along with sugar, sometimes brown sugar, because you could make molassesy hot chocolate, and then you'd stir constantly at a low temperature. And then she'd throw some butter in there. Dude.
That sounds amazing. I'm a huge hot chocolate guy. I don't drink coffee, so hot chocolate is my go-to hot drink, and that sounds amazing.
So it was ridiculous. And then one time she tried putting an egg yolk or two in there. It was like drinking liquid custard. It was my stomach hurt so much because I drank so much of it. And then what we would do is we'd put marshmallows on skewers, on metal skewers, but we had to wear oven mitts so it didn't the heat didn't go up the metal. And then we would roast marshmallows underneath the broiler. It was It was so awesome. Northern Michigan, like in the middle of a snowstorm or whatever. I'm having roasted marshmallows and like the best hot chocolate ever created. So that's probably my favorite food stuff. Yeah.
Yeah, so I mean, I can't compete with that. My mom used to make, and she still does. Like, I still have it whenever I go home. She made this stuff called, and some people call it puppy chow. We called it Muddy Buddies, but it's
Oh, that's good.
yeah, rice check cereal,
Right.
melted chocolate and peanut butter, a little bit of vanilla, and then you mix all that together, and then you throw powdered sugar on top. It
Right.
is amazing. I love it cold too. So we put them in the fridge, and oh my gosh, that is still amazing. Another toy shout that I forgot. I really like Micro Machines. They were basically like little
Oh, yeah.
cars,
Yeah.
and you had like a carpet that you can move them around on. So that was another one. But enough about us. I'm sure that was fascinating for everybody. I mean, I learned a lot, and we're gonna have to have a conversation off air about that hot chocolate, because that sounds like something I might want to try to make. But let's actually talk about the France versus USA match, with USA prevailing 2-1 here. So Matt, before we talk about the match, I wanted to get your thoughts on two things. First off, France's lineup I thought was the strongest lineup that they could have put out. And then also the US didn't have Lindsey Horan in it. What did you make about those two kind of decisions from the managers going into the match?
So I disagree with the French lineup being the strongest.
Good. And that's why I thought you might. And so that's why I wanted to get your opinion here.
So the reason why I disagree is I thought Casarino should have started over Govan. Govan's an amazing, she's a fantastic, large, strong, hold up number 9. She plays that role perfectly. The problem is the US is really good at marking number 9s out of games. So the thing that has been proven to beat the United States is speed. That's it. Dahlkemper is not that fast. Sauerbrunn is not as fast as she used to be. And so if you just put more speed up top, maybe even running Casarino and maybe a 4-3-3 in the center, then you have like tons and tons of speed. And maybe they'd put somebody else other than Casarino in there. But I thought that the French manager missed a chance by not employing speed tactics on the United States. Now, on to her, the lack of Horan. I had some pretty serious concerns about Rose Lavelle. Heather O'Reilly afterwards said she thought Lavelle played great. I didn't. I thought she had a trash match. I thought she looked nervy.
Yeah, I 100% agree with you. I did not hear Heather say that, and I'm surprised she said that, because it was pretty clear. Even the broadcasters were bringing it up during the match, and I thought it was very clear that Lavelle did not have a great match.
Well, I mean, Heather O'Reilly, she's excited that the United States moved on. You know, Heather O'Reilly, wait a minute. I think O'Reilly got a World Cup in 2015.
She did.
Yeah, she did.
She was there.
So, I mean, I understand she's totally homering up and she's, supporting her team and super excited. But no, Lavelle was not a good player at the beginning at all. She just, I think she was overwhelmed for the first time by the situation, and Horan would have been a better start.
So I agree with that. Looking in hindsight, coming into the match, I actually thought that Ertz should have dropped back for Sauerbrunn, and Horan should have come in and played with Mewis and Lavelle. I think that would have been the wrong decision looking back, because I thought Sauerbrunn had a really good match, and we'll get into this. Yeah, we'll get into this as we go through. And again, I thought, in benefit of hindsight now, you're spot on that Horan should have come in for Lavelle probably from the start. And so I'm going to agree with you on that. Anything else before we talk about what actually happened?
I do have one other thing. So I heard a couple other people, mainly on Twitter, say that Ertz should drop back. The problem is Dahlkemper doesn't work really well with a last-ditch defender, kind of like, because Ertz last-ditch defends all the time. And plus, she tends to slide tackle and not read the game very well. And she does read the game really well, but she employs slide tackling a lot. Dunn also she's constantly playing, on the edge of her chair, and slide tackles a lot as well. And so you can literally have two players slide tackle their way out of plays. And so I'm really glad that Ertz was where she was. And had she started as a center back alongside Dahlkemper, I would have been like, oh, there it goes, especially on the left side with Dunn.
Yeah, that's really good insight from you. And also because of Ertz would have been on the same side as Dunn. And so I didn't have that background. So good call there. And ultimately, Ellis did make the right decision as far as it came to that. So the game started. France was pressing relatively high throughout the match. And I thought that it was, the U.S. didn't necessarily handle that amazingly. And they didn't have to though at the end of the day. And so, and that was because the U.S. has a fantastic chance that comes about because of quick thinking from Megan Rapinoe in the 3rd minute. There's a throw in on the near side of the pitch. She throws a quick ball into Alex Morgan. And at this point, France had pushed their fullbacks forward. And that was something France was doing throughout the game. And especially early on, it was a really interesting watch because both the US and France were taking what I considered to be pretty big risks by the France pushing their fullbacks forward, and the US wingers weren't always tracking them back. And so there were overloads for both teams from an offensive perspective. So when France turned the ball over, the US had numbers going forward, but when France possessed the ball, I thought France had some more numbers going forward. And again, it was interesting watching that sort of push-pull. But getting back to this specific play, the US wins a throw-in and Rapinoe takes it very quickly. And so the US has numbers in this instance. Morgan is able to beat Mbak Bati and is able to get her on her back, and Mbak Bati has to foul and drags her down, picks up a yellow, but she sets it up in a very dangerous area. This free kick is probably about 16 yards out, but right about a yard or two outside of the 18 on the near side of the pitch. And so because of that, the wall has to set up more or less on the equivalent of the 6-yard box. And so the French defenders have to be pretty far deep. And I think that that is very evident and a big contributor to how this goal actually happens. And so Rapinoe comes in and she hits a low free kick on target, and there's just runners and chaos in the box and the ball slips through. But this was excellent play by the US. Before she even kicked it, I was like, this needs to be low and on target and just root for chaos. That was exactly what happened. Fantastic execution by the US, and all of those factors sort of led to why France kind of was in this position. Matt, thoughts on the goal?
It was a nice goal. It was, it's one of those goals that you kind of wonder how it went in, but it makes its way to the back of the net. And so, the U.S. is up 1-0, and it's, within the first 5, was it 5th minute or 4th minute of the match?
It was the 5th minute by the time the goal goes in.
Yeah, it was fantastic. And I also wanted to give you a shout out to your analysis, because that's exactly how France came out. So
thanks, Matt. It's just fun when we're agreeing on things. Yeah, I did. And so just getting back to this, France defended deep on this. But again, I think that they were forced into it because of where the free kick was. In an ideal world, France wouldn't have had most of their team on the 6-yard box for a free kick in this situation, but they were kind of forced into it, and the US just executed and took advantage of a dangerous situation. And so they go up 1-0 here, and it's a great start. That's when I noted the riskiness of the fullbacks and wingers. US was also playing a high line, and they were just doing a really good job of just compressing space. I had highlighted this in a Norway match, I think a couple of days ago. I'm losing track of time. Could have been, who knows? But they were doing a good job of just having compressed lines between the midfield and the defense. The U.S. was doing a good job of that as well. And the other thing that the U.S. was doing, I thought that they were doing very well to crowd the middle of the pitch and say, France, you can go wide if you want to, but you're not getting through the middle of our defense and or midfield. And France just, I think, was kind of hard-headed and tried to continue playing through that throughout specifically the first half. And again, it was just good execution by the U.S. defensively. Thoughts on that?
So one thing that we noted, I can't take credit for this because my daughter totally noticed it. What the United States was doing was purposely marking Govan out of the match. And then they were constantly throwing 2 players at Henry, and France couldn't deal with it. They were staying so central and so narrow and compact that Henry had literally no passing lanes or no way to get through. She couldn't carry the ball and she couldn't pass the ball. And France looked like they just weren't prepared for this. And also, one thing I wanted to point out, I don't remember ever seeing a game since I've been really paying attention to women's soccer where the United States abdicated possession. Like they were like, hey, we're not going to win the possession battle. It's like they try to outpossess everybody, and they didn't this game. Their game plan it was to win. And so I've been hard on Dunn and Ellis this tournament so far. I was impressed by Ellis's tactical adjustments and the game plan for today. It worked.
And I had heard on the broadcast, she sort of hinted at it where she said, I guess in an interview yesterday, that France doesn't like the ball. And they basically took that and said, all right, well, we're going to try to give them the ball and see if they can break us down. And they could not. Getting back to kind of what we were touching on there with the US's defensive organization and what France was trying to do, I thought both sides were having pretty uncharacteristic giveaways. And I think that
Right.
was part of it was the occasion. Part of it was what both teams were doing tactically, defensively. But there were a number of opportunities where just simple misplaced passes
Right.
under little pressure, balls like just across the midfield into pressure. I remember one specific one, like Rapinoe had an opportunity and she decided to like play a 30-yard ball back into pressure and it just went right to a France midfielder. And she had a fantastic game. This is just one that's sticking out in my mind.
Sure.
And that's one of the only ones. There was a ton of giveaways by both teams there. And I think it was a combination of tactics as well as occasion. Noted Lavelle was not having a great game. And then I noted that to end the half, neither team really had a ton of clear-cut chances in the first half.
No.
Really, it was just the Rapinoe goal on the U.S. side. And then France had a couple of half chances. And I guess the U.S. did have one shot in the first minute, but after Rapinoe collected the ball, drove inside and laid it off to Ertz. But really not a ton of great chances for either side in the first half. Any other thoughts from the first?
No, that pretty much sums it up.
46th minute, the U.S. comes out strong, kind of similar to how they did in the first half with another shot in the first minute. And there's an excellent double save here by Bouhadi, the goalkeeper for France. First one is a save on Mewis. It's a good hard shot. She gets down low and parries it out wide. And then Heath has a follow-up and she directs it on target. I'm still not certain if it would have come off the post or not, but Bouhadi gets back into position, kick save and out for a corner. And so this was how the half started, and it was a sign of intent from the U.S. here. Any thoughts on this play, Matt?
Oh, it was just outstanding goalkeeping. I was actually, I want to get back to Heath a little bit too. I was pretty impressed with Heath today. She didn't try to hold the ball up. She tried to play quickly. And I thought she had a good game. So yeah, that's pretty much all I have. Yeah.
All right. Yeah. No, I thought so too. But nothing else to add there. Yeah, that's spot on. I thought the U.S. throughout the game was doing a good job of shutting down Gianni, and this goes hand in hand with Dunn. I highlighted this on the podcast yesterday. If Dunn could hold up Gianni and not concede opportunities to her, the U.S. would do well. And I thought that Dunn had a fantastic match when it came to that. And even going forward late in the match, Dunn was doing well. I thought I touched on it earlier. Dunn and Sauerbrunn, I thought played really well, and I had some concerns about them. And Nair didn't do anything spectacular, but as a goalkeeper and defenders, your job is to not lose the game. It's not to win the game. Right. And she didn't make any mistakes that were really notable, and she did her job. So those three players were the players I was probably most concerned about coming into this, and all three had relatively good games. Specifically, Dunn and Sauerbrunn, I thought were really, really good. France really building the pressure on the U.S. through 58 minutes. And this is when the U.S. started to fall back into that kind of 5-4-1 shape. Right. I thought that this was a little bit premature. I thought that this was really early to go into this shape because they really conceded that they weren't going to get forward and they were just daring France to beat them and to just continue building pressure. It ultimately worked out, but it made me very nervous for the remainder of the game. Matt, what did you think about the decision to go to that formation so early?
Well, there were a couple things. One, Dunn was staying home until the end of the match. I didn't expect her to. Again, that's part of the coaching, the tactical stuff that Jill Ellis set up. So I thought that was good. Even though she got fried a couple times, Sauerbrunn was in position to help her out. Now going to the 5-4-1, yeah, it was definitely early in the match. I also thought that it was cool that Ellis was willing to take the risk to throw a completely different look at France and make them adjust, make them be on the ball even more, and then have to break the United States down. The only thing that I wondered was if the United States is going to play this way as a tactic going forward, well, Ellis didn't bring very many extra subs. So you're kind of looking at it. You know, there aren't, she doesn't have backup subs or backup defensive subs, to bring into the game if they're going to play like a low block shape like that. So that's where I'm concerned.
And that's a valid concern. I honestly don't know if they're going to do this again. I think it was a product of, I don't frankly know. Yes, England's very talented. Germany, Netherlands, whoever ends up coming through on that side of the bracket are very talented. But I think France was the team that the U.S. was most concerned with in this tournament. And I don't know if they'll go into that shape, especially not that early in a game moving forward, whether it's against England or, if they get through into the final. But that is a concern. If they do ultimately deploy that tactic, I think that it is a risk to do that given the personnel that they've brought here. Also noted, Becky Sauerbrunn, she just really read the game so well today and was anticipating passes and just getting into the right spots. You touched on she maybe isn't the fleetest of foot anymore, and I've brought that up before. It's not like she's slow, but she just isn't maybe what she used to be, and she was just reading the game so well. 63rd minute, Lindsey Horan comes on for Lavelle, and that was probably halftime substitution that should have happened. And then shortly after that, the U.S. gets their goal. And it comes in the 65th minute. There's excellent hold-up play by Alex Morgan here. In the second half especially, I thought Morgan had a number of instances where she had really good center forward play. She has a good combination with Heath, and then eventually Alex gets into position where she's running at the defense, and she plays a perfectly timed through ball, perfectly weighted through ball to Heath in between Wendy Reynard. Heath has a ton of room, and at that point, it is basically 3-on-2. Heath draws a defender. Mewis makes a near post run. Heath hits it behind Mewis, and Rapinoe is wide open on the far post. It's kind of a slow roller, and Rapinoe does well to get her shot on target, keep it down, and get it, again, avoid the sliding defender that was coming through, as well as Buhati from the French keeper. U.S. goes up 2-0 here. Matt, thoughts on the goal?
So I was trying to figure out what the hell Buhati was doing. She just ran out into no man's land. She had two defenders trying over there to cover Heath, and then she didn't stay on her line. She just rushed toward the ball and then realized she didn't need to because she had cover there, and then it was too late. She was already out of position. Heath picked her head up, didn't try to take players on, passed the ball across the box. And again, with a slow roller, you would think that Buhati would actually have time to get into position. Nope, because she makes that initial positional mistake. All Rapinoe has to do is get the ball on frame to the left side of the net at that point. So
is this on the initial ball from Morgan to Heath when Buhati comes out, or when does she come out?
So when Heath is on the ball there, she kind of comes toward Heath a little bit. I think it's when Morgan passes the ball over. I can't remember exactly how it is. I just remember Heath passing the ball over to Rapinoe, and then Buhati being too close to Heath. Like she was actually off her line, kind of rushing toward. I think she was trying to intercept the ball, or thought about intercepting the ball coming from Morgan to Heath. I don't know why I'm conducting with chopsticks, so she was, but again, she had defensive cover there with two of her defensive players there. So that she shouldn't have come off her line. She should have stayed on her line and then watched where the ball went and then rotated over when the ball was crossed, but she didn't, and it gave Rapinoe an excellent chance, and she finished it.
Absolutely. Maybe I'm trying to put my hat on and think about what she maybe was thinking. Maybe she thought Mewis was going to get to it, and she was coming out to close down that angle, and then maybe she was exposed again. We haven't watched this second time, so we're reacting to this from what we can remember from the match. And I'd still think Rapinoe does well, even if Buhati's in the right position. It might be slightly harder for Rapinoe, but she does really well here, and the U.S. takes the lead. Players I had concerns about, already touched on that. Next thing I noted was France getting their goal. And so So the next thing I noted was in the 75th minute, there's great play by the U.S. Oh, yeah, we have to talk about this. So this, again, great play by the U.S. The ball gets into Alex Morgan, and she has great center forward play again. She slips it out wide to Crystal Dunn, who puts in a great cross and a fantastic first-time finish by Heath. This is called offside, and on the replay, they kind of went away from it very quickly, but the replay looked like it was, maybe inches. And so, Matt, what do you think about this not going to VAR? If this was offside, not offside, what do you make of this whole call? Because it could have cost the U.S.
So it's really frustrating. VAR clearly reviewed this on some level because they did check it, didn't they?
Yes.
They did. And they ruled that Dunn was offside, and technically she was offside. I find calls like that to be really difficult, but if that's what VAR is going to be used for, then I'm okay with it as long as it's consistent. Okay, if you're offside on a goal, it's going to be called back. So I don't really have a problem with it as long as it's consistent, like I was saying, but man, it's harsh. Like literally 2 or 3 inches of her foot was offside.
Yes. And the reason that I don't have a problem with it. So first off, I think that the attacker should be given the benefit of the doubt, and the AR shouldn't have raised her flag. But in this instance, the AR calls Crystal Dunn offside. Once that happens, there is not a clear and obvious error here. I've touched on this in the past with VAR and offsides. As much as we want to say it's black and white, it is not black and white. And so the VAR, or excuse me, the assistant referee flags her offside, and there's not a clear and obvious error that would warrant this being overturned. And so, yes, we're splitting hairs. Yes, it's inches. And I think the AR probably should have kept her flag down because it was so tight. She doesn't, and ultimately, I'm fine with this call standing. As much as I root for the U.S. and wanted them to go up 3-0, I think that this was the right use of VAR. And yeah, well, we'll get to the other instance of VAR in a minute here. 81st minute, France gets their goal, and this is just an excellent free kick in by Tine. Mewis is the culpable party here, where she drops behind the rest of the U.S. back line by about, it's got to be at least 2 yards, and keeps all the French players on side. And at that point, no one is really marking Wendy Reynard. And so whoever else, there's somebody else to blame here. I don't have them noted, but Reynard has a relatively easy header from about 6 yards out, directs it on target. I don't fault Nair. I don't really fault anyone else. Matt, thoughts on the goal?
I actually thought Nair, because the ball was close enough to her box, I thought that she should have come out aggressively, because she can put her arms up in the air, and that's taller than a 6'1" center back. Nair's like 5'8" or 5'9". If she jumps, she's got pretty good hops. So she goes in hard, and then she's going to get the benefit of the doubt for any calls if there's a collision. So I think, yeah, Mewis was definitely behind the line. She definitely kept the players on side. It certainly benefited France. It was a beautiful finish, but also in a perfect world, Nair reads that ball a little bit better and then crashes the ball. So that's, again, it's really splitting hairs. She didn't, if it is a mistake, it's not a huge mistake. You can understand why she stayed on her line.
Yeah, and it's a tough one there. I don't have too much blame going to my Nair in that one. So it's 2-1, and it gets a little bit nervy. And specifically, it was around the 85th or 86th minute. The 86th minute is when they showed the replay. I think the incident may have occurred in the 85th. But Madri has the ball on the left side, so the near side of the pitch, and she's going up against Kelly O'Hara, and she tries to serve in across. O'Hara is in the box. The referee is right there on top of it, and it hits Kelly O'Hara's hand. And in this instance, the hand is by the side, but it's not tucked into the sides. I think Kelly O'Hara is making herself bigger. And the other key aspect of this is that she blocks the ball from going into a dangerous area. We touched on the England thing yesterday and why I didn't think it was a penalty, because the ball was going away from goal. And again, it was kind of tucked in, and, not rehashing that. But the reason why this is different is that it blocks the ball from going into a very dangerous area. Having said all of that, the referee sees the play and allows it. It's not a clear and obvious error, so it shouldn't have gone to VAR. The referee saw the play. She interpreted it the way that she did. And like, I think it's Christina Unkel, the VAR expert, has said, VAR is not there to re-referee games. This, I don't think, was a clear and obvious error, because the referee sees it and she interprets it in that manner. That is my opinion. But Matt, what did you think of this call?
Oh, this is a tough call. Because hearkening back to the Japan game, I was trying to remember, was that player's arm farther away from her body than O'Hara's?
It was pretty similar. It was pretty similar. Yeah.
This is the fluidity of soccer. This is one of the reasons why we watch. We don't know what a referee's going to do, and because they're human. It doesn't mean that they're rooting for one side or the games are rigged, because they're hardly ever rigged. It's just because they're human. I know. Yeah. Because there have been instances of games being rigged in the past.
Yes.
So, but that's it. That's part of the deal. That's part of the package that you get when you watch a game, and especially in a high intensity game like this. Now, I would have been sad, but I would not have had a huge issue if this ball would have been called, if it would have been called a penalty.
I think it should have been a penalty. I just want to make that clear. But once the referee makes the decision that she saw everything that happened and she decides that it wasn't a penalty, I'm okay with this not going to VAR, because I don't want VAR to be used in situations to re-referee games. And so, again, yes, it benefited the U.S., but I'm not speaking from that perspective. I'm speaking from the perspective of, I want the games to flow, and I don't want if the referee completely missed this and her vision was blocked, that wasn't the instance here. She is literally, I think, about 10 yards away, staring at it, and she sees it happen, and she immediately waves it off. So I'm fine with that. Again, I thought it should have been a penalty, but I'm okay with it not going to VAR here. Any other thoughts on this, Matt?
Well, one thing I wanted to point out was that if the exact same play happened for France and it wasn't called, I would have felt exactly the same, because it's a gray area play. It's a judgment call by the ref.
Well, yeah, and it's like I was just talking about with Crystal Dunn and the offside. Again, I don't want this to re-referee. The referee made a call. It's not clear and obvious that she made an error, and so I'm okay with this ultimately standing. So I think we're in agreement there. Last thing that I wanted to highlight here is that the U.S. really closed this game out well. In a specific instance, I can trace it back to, it's right after the 90th minute. So it's the 91st minute, but super early on. The U.S. has the ball kind of down towards France's box, and Kristen Press does well to win the ball off of a French defender. And she's in a situation where she's 1v2, and she could have taken a shot. She could have tried to take players on. What she ends up doing is she cycles the ball back to, I can't remember who the midfielder was, but the U.S. keeps possession for a good 30 to 40 seconds here. And at the very least, they get it to the corner, and France doesn't really collect the ball again for another 30 to 40 seconds. I thought that cut out completely all of France's momentum. I noted they didn't get another shot. They didn't get another cross. They didn't really have another chance after this, because the U.S., by just doing this little thing, it really just took the wind out of the sails of the French attack, and they couldn't get anything together after that. And again, I think the ball came into the U.S. half maybe 2 or 3 times after that, and the U.S. just did exceptionally to close out the match, and it all kind of started. I'm tracing it back to this play by Kristen Press. Any other thoughts from this game, Matt?
Actually, the way that the United States closed that game out was a thing of beauty. There was somebody who actually put out something on Twitter saying, why is the United States carrying the ball to the corner all the time? And I said, hey, they're trying to kill this game off. I said, if you watch, every time they do that, it wastes like 15 to 30 seconds. And then they were like, oh, this is great. And so it was kind of fun interacting with somebody who didn't know on Twitter. So
nice. Yeah. And the other aspect of it is not only is it wasting time, but it's pulling France out of position. And then even if they get the ball, they then have to work the ball 90 to 120 yards up the pitch. And again, being out of position, and it's not just those 10 to 15 seconds where the U.S. is holding the ball in the corner. It's also, the transitions that need to happen after that. So overall, great performance by the U.S. to get out of this with a 2-1 win. I think that it was slightly on the uglier side. This wasn't the wide open, free-flowing game that I think some had hoped for, but I still think it was high quality. It was intense. It was just a good overall match. And so I'm happy, obviously, with the result, but I'm also happy with the performance as well. Any final thoughts from this game?
I thought this game was really exciting. And it wasn't just because the United States won. Both sides were quality. Both sides had a game plan. The United States' game plan worked. But this was not, I didn't think this was that ugly of a game. Yeah, it was really physical. Yes, tensions were high. Okay. So in the first half, France and the United States were missing a lot of passes, and that part was ugly. But really, it was, to me, it reminds me of like playing against a Simeone coached team. Other teams just don't play as well against his teams because he sets up so much defensively. And that these teams are both so good in the midfield and in the defense that they just, like, the United States didn't condescend to think, hey, we brought this amazing attack to the World Cup, we're just going to attack our way through. No, they didn't play like that. They played like they knew it was going to be a brawl. And frankly, so did France. And it was just two brawlers out there going, let's go toe to toe. I'm going to stop with the metaphors because I'm like in triple metaphor.
I think it flies.
It was great. I loved the match. And even if France would have won, I would have felt like I got my money's worth. Even if I had flown to France and the score would have been 2-1 France, I would have been like, wow, I was there, because that was a great match.
Well said. Nothing else from me. Matt, what was your save of the game then?
Probably the Buhati double save.
Yeah, I'm gonna agree with you on that one. I do. Nair did have a nice one for the cameras, like the header where she fully extended. It may have been going wide, it may not have, but that was on Gauvin, and so that's worthy of mention. But I'm in agreement. The Buhati double save in the 46th minute is my save of the day. Matt, what was your goal of the game? I guess you got 3 to choose from.
Why don't you pick? Because I
So
always take yours.
okay, I'll go with Rapinoe's second goal. Just
Right.
the excellent build-up play by the U.S. to have so many players involved and to work the ball all around and then to cut it across and have Rapinoe sort of trailing and to finish the way that she did. That was my goal of the day. What about you?
So that really would have been my goal of the day, but I think that Rapinoe's first goal, because it was such a fluke, really changed the psyche of the French national team so much. They literally were walking around kind of like they were dazed after that ball went in the back of the net. They were like, what the hell is going? What? Look, we're playing the US and this is happening again. We're supposed to be better than them, and oh well.
Right. And so then what was your moment of the day?
Oh, the win. Just the win. Just when that whistle was blown and just watching the United States be so excited. That's one of those games, though, and I'm not trying to be condescending. It's one of those games where I didn't like seeing France lose because I enjoyed the match so much, and France is so good. It's disappointing that this game happened so early in the tournament.
Absolutely. I'm in agreement with you on that one. My moment of the day, and I kind of alluded to this in how we close it out, was that play by Kristen Press in the 90th minute to 91st minute to, again, keep possession and really just that was the start of the U.S. killing off the game. And so, again, I think that was kind of underrated. It's probably not going to get, mentioned in newspapers or heralded in any way. But for me, that was so important. Any final things before we talk about tomorrow's matches?
Nope.
All right, so tomorrow we got two matches for you. We have Italy taking on the Netherlands, just realizing that these games are starting on the earlier side. I'm okay with that. So Italy versus the Netherlands, that's taking place at 9 a.m. Eastern Standard Time, and then Germany is facing Sweden at 12:30 p.m. I'm doing the mental math because we're on the West Coast. So yes, 12:30 is the right time, Eastern Standard Time, Germany versus Sweden. Matt, what do you expect to happen in Italy versus Netherlands?
I don't know. Italy has been such a surprise. They've defended so well in this tournament. I think the Netherlands, frankly, is underwhelmed in every single match. I wouldn't be surprised if Italy pulls us out 1-0.
So I could absolutely see that happening as well. Having said that, I'm going to give the slight edge to the Netherlands, just given their experience in tournament play. They've already won a Euros. I think that I might have this wrong, but I think some of their players might be a little bit more professionalized. I think the game in Italy is still not fully professional. I remember reading that somewhere. And so I think that their team's a little bit deeper. Also, Italy did not inspire confidence in their last match where they had a number of players that just looked exhausted. And in a tournament like this, where it's a marathon, I think that is not a great sign heading into this. And so I'm going to give the slight edge to Netherlands here. Matt, what about Germany, Sweden?
Oh, Germany's going to win.
Confident?
Yeah. They're going to score 2 goals. Sweden's not going to score more than 1 if they score at all. But yeah, Germany's going to win.
So while I haven't been impressed with Sweden's performances in this tournament, I think that's by design, and Sweden just doesn't play the attractive soccer, or I think what we all envision a powerhouse team to play as. And I want to underestimate them, but I'm also just wary of going down that route. Yes, it's Germany, and they've historically been a very strong tournament side, but Sweden just has something about them where they're just grinding out results, and I don't think it's going to be very easy for Germany. I think both these matches are going to be really tight. I'm going to give the slight edge to Germany, but I wouldn't be shocked if Sweden keeps this tight if this has to go to extra time or penalties. So that's what I'm thinking. Matt, who's a player you're watching out for tomorrow?
Probably Hermoso.
For Spain?
That's not Hermoso. No. Bonansea.
Okay.
That's what I meant. Yeah. I was like, that's for Spain. Sorry.
What are you looking out for from Bonansea?
Well, I think she has to have a good match. She's largely responsible for scoring and then creating for Italy, and yeah, especially if she looked pretty exhausted at the end of their last game too. If she's not game fit for this one. Sorry, I'm just running out of words. Honestly, this drink has hit me, and and yeah,
All right, I'll take over.
Thanks, man.
All right. So Jeff is chiming in here that Martins may be injured. So I didn't hear that. And if that's the case, then obviously that's going to play a role in this. And that's going to make, so the player I was going to highlight and make her even more important here, Miedema for Netherlands, the center forward. The Italian center backs have been fantastic in this tournament, Linari and Gamma. And specifically, I highlighted this when I was doing the Italy review a couple days ago. Gamma is really good, but I think she can be over aggressive at times. And if Miedema can have those little periods of just creative play and creative movement more, she might be able to create space for herself and get a goal. And that might be the difference in this one, especially if Martins can't play. Again, I'm not certain if that's the case or not, but Miedema versus the two Italian center backs is going to be a really important battle to see who comes out as a victor in this match. And so that's why I've highlighted her here. Matt, anything else you would like to add?
No.
All right, cool. Listeners, viewers, thank you so much for being here. If you've joined us live on YouTube, Sal, James, Jeff, I think I got everybody who has left comments. So thank you for doing that. If you're listening to the podcast, we also record live. Tomorrow's the weekend. So if you're not at work and, come hang out with us while we record, it's always great to get some interactions. We record right after the matches end. Follow us on Twitter at BT Soccer Pod is our Twitter handle. Matt, what's your Twitter handle?
At Northwood Guitar.
All right. If you liked what you heard here, please leave us a review on iTunes. 5-star reviews would help us out, and we would greatly appreciate that. Make sure to check out our website, brostalkingsoccer.com. You can read about us, check out past episodes, check out some of our other YouTube videos, and then we have a store link where you can buy some merch. And if you buy anything on Amazon and go through our store link, we get a very small percentage. No additional cost to you, but we would greatly appreciate that and help support the show. So please consider doing that. Matt, thank you so much for talking to me today.
Thanks for having me, Dave. See you tomorrow.
All right, listeners, thank you so much for being here with us. We hope you enjoyed it, and we'll be back recapping day 23, the final quarterfinal matches tomorrow. Have a great rest of your day, and we'll talk to you soon. Say, everybody. Sal, everybody, thank you guys for being here. Sal, yes, sleeping. I was looking forward to sleeping in a little bit tomorrow, but I guess that's not happening. And tomorrow's looking like a nap day as well. Sal's on the West Coast with us, Matt, so we got to, Matt, I see your mouth moving. I'm not sure if you're okay.
There we go. Yeah, the games are at 6 and 9:30.
Yeah.
So,
I
had to take this hat off. My head was frying.
All right, no worries. I want to say that that's the last time that we have early matches. I could have that wrong.
I'm actually glad that it happens early. I might be a little late for that. Oh, I'll talk to you about that when we go off.
Oh, yeah. Sorry. Didn't realize we were still live. All right, everybody. See ya. Bye.